皆さんこんにちは。僕はダニエルです。はじめまして。よろしくお願いします。I'm here to share with you my experience as a band leader for Cirque du Soleil. I hope you enjoy. Work for Cirque du Soleil is a life-changing experience. People from different cultures working together to produce one of the best shows on earth. At Cirque, we use computers together with the band to provide the music. And I will explain a little bit how it works with the Ableton Live session. First of all, we have to understand the musical parts related to the act. So we have a visual movements from the artists together with the music. So let's check that out. This act is a hand balancing act from Vladimir Rishenko. Thank you, Vladimir, for letting me use that. As we could see, the music is really synchronized with the act. First thing we do, we have to relate the parts of the music with the parts of the act. So let's check it out. So at this side here, I have some notes that I made it to follow the act with the musical parts, right? So we have intro. Is the beginning of the song. The second part of the song is hi-hat groove, when he makes a left handstand and raises his right arm. Count when his arm is parallel to the ground. What that means? This specific note is for the band leader, so he knows where to count to go to the next section of the song. And here, the third cue of the song, the third section, crescendo, when he raises his right arm to make a 3/6 turn. So the fourth part is breakdown, when he bends his body and make a 360. Count a measure after he take off his hand from the bar. And the ending, the fifth cue, the fifth part of the song ending, it's after the ceiling walk, he opens his leg, and we have to count when he appears standing on the floor, opening his arms to finish the act. Let's have a look with the notes, the act again with the notes, and I will count the parts that we just saw it. I know it looks complicated, and it is. So here we go. We're gonna start with the intro. Next cue, hi-hat groove. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Next cue, crescendo. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Next cue, breakdown. One, 2, 3, 4. And the ending. We are waiting for the ceiling walk. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's have a look at the Ableton session and see how it works. So as you can see here, we have a left and right track, a stereo track, that usually the composer sends to us as a reference track for the mix engineers at the front of the house. So I will explain with this file how we cut the music into parts. We separate the musical cues like this, and then after that we really cut the song into parts, right? So let's check that out. First, intro. right? That's the intro of the song. And then hat groove. And then crescendo. Breakdown. And the end. This is the timeline of the song, and we're gonna cut that into pieces, and then we're gonna separate that in the vertical way. Let me break down this for you. Normally, we have the timeline view. It goes from the left to the right when you play the song, right? So, for example, we have A part of the song, starts here, and then B and C, and so on, right? And end. In the horizontal way, right? So left to the right. In Ableton, we are able as well, in the session view they call it, or clip view, to play vertically. So we play A, and then B, and C, and end. The vertical way that we see here in the session view also play the clips horizontally, but it will jump to the next section of the song vertically. That's very interesting. So, after we play A in the horizontal way, it will jump for the next session and starts from left to the right again, and then so on. One of the reasons why we play vertically, let's say if the artist is a little late for his movement, and we have to wait for him to go to the next section of the song, to the B part, for example. So we can loop the very last section of A until the artist is done with his movement, and then we go to B. So we just loop this part here. And why we don't loop the whole way? The song, the way it was composed, this part here is supposed to connect it to B, so we just loop this part here, waiting for the B section and waiting for the artist. And that's why we have to count for the band. And the band leader will control the computer and count for the band. Otherwise, we cannot play synchronized. That's why we have to make the counts. So let's have a close look to how I separate the sessions vertically. I have Ableton Push 2 to help us here. And I also want to mention this blue stripe that you can see here. We are controlling the video. For the sake of this example, I synchronize the video because we are not rehearsing live with the artist. So this is just to give you an example of what could happen live if the act is not synchronized with the music totally. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer, the length of that. Let's see how I synchronize the video and music together. Let's go from the intro. So hi-hat groove. Let's jump to hi-hat groove. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Crescendo. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And breakdown. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's redo crescendo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do breakdown now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And ending. 1, 2, 3, 4. In this process of matching the song with the act, it's very important to be in contact with the composer. Each composer has its own demands. So let's talk with Philippa Brzezinski, who is the composer for this song, and see what his demands are. Alright, we are here with Philippa Brzezinski, and he's the composer for the hand balance act. Hello, Philippa, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. How are you, man?
I'm very good. So, tell me more about this composition, how you came up with the idea and the whole thing.
So, I had to watch the video a couple of times to try to understand what the whole thing was about. So, I had to put my mind inside the act. So it was all about the crescendo, and when the drop comes in, like we needed that big impact. So I almost like a mountain trying to build a crescendo, and was all about the drop of the tune. So it was all about like emphasizing every single part of the act, you know.
I realized that there's lots of drum sounds in the different parts. So how you want to manage that through the live situation that we have to play that?
The track is a mixture of all the synthesized sounds with your own drum sounds, especially in the intro, like the hi-hat pattern. I really feel that it needs to have your own drum sounds. We just like try to emphasize the little effects on the tunes, but on that part in the crescendo, you can be like really free on your drum sounds. But like in the drop part, when the beat comes in, like the kick drum and the snare sound, they were all made from scratch from synthesizers I tried to be as powerful as I could. So in that part, I reckon it's really important that you triggered like the kick and the snare sound that I have. So like try to be as hybrid as possible, be acoustic in the intro, in the crescendo, but in the drop, we need that powerful synthesized kick and snare drum and the hi-hat that was made from synthesizers as well. We need that hybrid situation, you know?
All right, Philippa Brzezinski, thank you very much for participating of this project. And
my
I hope
pleasure,
you enjoy.
Danny.
Thank you for composing this song, for this beautiful act. And,
thank you, man. It's my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
So, see you soon, buddy. Talking to Felipe, we find out that we have to keep his sounds, his drum sounds, into the music. Specifically in the drum backbeat that happens in the breakdown cue for us. Let's check that out. Coming back to the session here, is this cue here that we have to work on. Let's hear that cue and see what he's talking about. So it's these sounds here, these drum sounds. All right. So we have two drum parts in this song that I have to play. So what I did was program the first drum part with a different sound than the second part. Okay, for the first part of the song, I have a regular snare sound that I can preview with the Ableton Push 2. It's very handy. Right? And the other sounds like a bass drum, hi-hat, and cymbals comes from my acoustic drums. And for the second part of the song, I sampled his exact sounds that he made into these three pads here, right? So I will play that later on the drums, and that was how we prepared the song in Ableton Session to play live with the act. Now is the fun part. How are we gonna call the show with act? Let's jump to the drums and see how it works.